My wife tried to blame her affair on me, so I showed the proof to her family. Hey Reddit, throwaway account here because I honestly never thought I'd be that guy posting on r/relationship_advice. But, well, life happens fast. My wife, let's call her Amy, and I have been married for 6 years. People always said we were relationship goals. We had cute anniversary traditions, matching Christmas pajamas, and a dozen inside jokes that always seemed to crack us up. But looking back, I think I missed the warning signs. About a year ago, it was like someone slowly turned the volume down on our marriage. The little things faded. She started working late more often. Her phone was suddenly face down and always locked. And even when we were together, she seemed distracted. If I reached for her hand, she'd flinch like she forgot I was there. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Her job's demanding, and we'd both been busy. But the distance only grew. Our conversations became robotic, just schedules and chores, no more spontaneous laughter. I kept telling myself, this is just a phase. All couples go through ruts. But deep down, I was starting to feel invisible in my own home. And then, one night, everything changed, because I saw a message pop up on her phone that I was never meant to see. Was it just my imagination? Or was Amy hiding something that could ruin everything? But I couldn't unsee what I saw. That message. It was so quick, I almost missed it. Amy was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Just a flash of a name I didn't recognize, Matt Red Heart, and a preview. Last night was amazing. Miss you already. My heart did this weird, hollow drop. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was some inside joke, maybe I was overthinking. But something in my gut twisted hard. I stared at the phone, wanting so badly to believe it was nothing. After she got out of the shower, Amy acted totally normal. She even smiled, asked what I wanted for dinner, but I could barely answer. Suddenly, I was seeing all her recent behavior in a new, ugly light. The late nights, the giggles at texts she'd never show me, the way she'd get defensive if I so much as glanced at her screen. When I tried to bring up us spending less time together, she brushed it off. You're being dramatic. Everything's fine. But everything wasn't fine. The doubts kept whispering in my ear, louder with every small lie, every distant hug. I needed answers, but I didn't want to be that paranoid husband. Was I really about to go down the rabbit hole of spying on my wife? Or was this just the beginning of something much worse than I imagined? That night, I made a choice I could never take back. I wish I could say I slept that night, but my mind kept replaying that message. By morning, I was running on caffeine and anxiety. I watched Amy get ready for work. Same routine, same distant eyes, and I realized I couldn't keep pretending. When she left, I felt sick, torn between guilt and suspicion. But the message haunted me. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I spent the day searching for any clue. Her laptop was password protected, something new. Her phone was never left alone for long. Finally, I remembered the old tablet we used to watch Netflix, still synced to her accounts. My hands shook as I powered it up and opened her messages. There it was, hundreds of texts between Amy and Matt. Flirty, intimate, the kind of thing we hadn't shared in years. Photos, inside jokes, even complaints about me, things I'd never imagined she'd say. Reading those words, I felt like I was suffocating. Anger, humiliation, heartbreak, it all hit at once. I wanted to scream, to smash the tablet, but I just sat there, numb. I knew there was no going back. How do you look someone in the eye after reading messages like that? How do you pretend not to know? That evening, I waited for Amy to come home, my mind racing with what to do next. When Amy walked through the door that evening, I could barely look at her. My stomach was in knots, my hands cold and shaky. She smiled and asked how my day was, but all I could hear was Matt's name echoing in my mind. I waited until after dinner, when the house was quiet, just the two of us in the living room. Before I finally said, "We need to talk," she tensed immediately. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it cracked as I asked, "Who is Matt?" Her eyes widened, then narrowed. For a second, she just stared at me, and I almost hoped she'd break down and tell me the truth. But instead, she scoffed. "Are you really going to start with this? He's just a friend from work. Why are you being so paranoid?" I showed her the tablet. The color drained from her face. But instead of admitting anything, she got defensive, fast. "Why are you going through my stuff? Are you spying on me now? Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with work, we wouldn't be having these issues. Her voice rose, flipping the blame. Suddenly, I was the problem, the overbearing, suspicious husband. My proof lay between us, but she acted like I was the villain. Was I really losing my mind? Or was she trying to rewrite the story? And that's when the real gaslighting began. Amy's words hit hard, twisting everything around. She didn't just deny the affair. She made it sound like I was the reason our marriage was falling apart. You never listen anymore, she snapped, tears welling up in her eyes. You're always distant, always working late yourself. Maybe if you actually cared about us, I wouldn't have to find comfort elsewhere. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Somehow, in a matter of minutes, I went from being betrayed to being blamed for her betrayal. She even accused me of having an affair, asking why I was suddenly so interested in her phone, if I was hiding something myself. What are you projecting onto me, huh? You think I don't notice how you're always on your phone lately? I tried to defend myself, but every explanation just gave her new ammo. Was I imagining it all? Her manipulation was so convincing, it almost made me doubt my own memory. I felt lost, stuck in a nightmare where nothing made sense anymore. But deep down, I knew I had to dig deeper. What if she convinced everyone else, too? That night, after our fight, Amy went to bed early, barely looking at me. I sat alone on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, her words circling in my head like vultures. Was it really my fault? Was I so wrapped up in work that I pushed her away? I started picking apart every argument, every cold moment, wondering if I'd missed something. I even scrolled through my own messages, half convinced I'd find some evidence she could use against me. But the pain wouldn't let go. My stomach was in knots. My heart felt hollow. I barely slept, replaying our conversation over and over, feeling guilty for snooping, yet angry that I even needed to. The next day, Amy acted completely normal, like nothing had happened. She kissed me goodbye, chatted about weekend plans. The casual cruelty of it almost broke me. At work, I found myself staring at my phone, waiting for a message that would make any of this make sense. I kept checking her social media, scanning for clues. I even called an old friend for advice, but couldn't bring myself to explain everything. Was I really that blind, or just desperate to believe in a lie? By the time the weekend rolled around, I knew I had to get real answers, no matter the cost. Determined not to lose myself in doubt, I knew I had to gather real, irrefutable evidence. I couldn't let Amy's version of the story become the only one people heard. I started small, taking screenshots of the messages on the tablet and backing them up somewhere safe. Every word felt like a dagger, but I needed to protect myself. I began paying closer attention, noting Amy's excuses, her sudden work emergencies, the way she'd whisper on the phone in the hallway. I even reached out to her coworker, Jess, someone I trusted, casually asking about Amy's late nights. Jess hesitated, then said, "I thought she was with you last Thursday." That was all I needed to know. Amy had been lying to everyone. My anxiety morphed into grim resolve. Each new piece of evidence made the story clearer and uglier. I kept detailed notes. Times, places, everything that didn't add up. For the first time, I felt a strange sense of power, like I was finally taking control. But Amy's mood grew colder, and I could sense she was getting suspicious. Would she try to destroy the evidence? Or convince everyone else that I was losing my mind? I realized I was running out of time, and the truth needed to come out, fast. Amy must have sensed the shift in me. Suddenly, she was extra sweet in public, acting like the perfect wife whenever friends or family were around. Behind closed doors, though, the tension was suffocating. She started reaching out to my family, dropping little comments. "He's been so distant lately. I'm really worried about him," planting seeds of doubt before I could speak. One night, I overheard her on the phone with her sister, her voice trembling. "I don't know what's wrong with him. He's always accusing me, going through my things. I'm scared." It was like she was setting up her own defense, turning people against me before I could even open my mouth. Meanwhile, friends stopped reaching out as much, and her side of the family barely answered my texts. I could feel my support system shrinking as Amy played the victim to everyone else. The isolation was intense. I realized if I didn't act soon, she'd have everyone convinced I was the villain. I had proof, but would anyone believe me once she poisoned the well? How could I turn things around before it was too late? I knew then, if I wanted the truth to come out, I'd have to make a bold, public move. I spent days rehearsing what I'd say, planning how to reveal everything without losing my composure. The risk was huge. If this backfired, I could lose not just my marriage, but my reputation, my friends, maybe even my family's trust. But watching Amy twist the story, seeing her draw more people into her web, I knew I had no choice. Quietly, I reached out to her family, suggesting we get together for dinner at her parents' house. I made it sound casual, just a catch-up evening. No hint of the storm I was about to bring. As the date approached, Amy seemed suspicious, asking if something was wrong. I just smiled, told her I wanted to reconnect with everyone. Inside, my heart was pounding. I saved every screenshot, every message, and even asked Jess to write down what she knew, just in case. I knew Amy would try to turn things in her favor. She was already on edge, hovering over me, trying to see my phone, asking questions she'd never cared about before. But my mind was made up. I had to risk it all for the truth. Would I really go through with it? Would they even listen, or would I just look like the bitter, jealous husband? The day of the dinner came. And so did the moment of truth. That evening felt like walking into a lion's den. Amy was all smiles, greeting her parents and siblings with hugs, her act flawless. I sat at the table, heart thudding, barely tasting the food. Conversation was stiff, small talk masking the tension only I could feel. I kept glancing at Amy, wondering if she suspected what I was about to do. Her parents asked about our work, plans for the holidays. Amy took every chance to mention how busy I'd been, how she missed spending time together, her voice trembling just enough for effect. I felt my jaw clench. Was anyone else noticing how forced it all was? I doubted it. Finally, as dinner wrapped up and everyone was settling in for coffee, I took a deep breath. Actually, there's something I need to talk about. Every head turned. Amy shot me a look, a silent warning, but I pushed forward, hands shaking as I reached for my phone. What if they didn't believe me? What if this only made things worse? I couldn't back down now, and as I opened the folder of screenshots, the entire room seemed to freeze. I opened the folder and let the silence hang for a moment. Everyone was watching. Amy's face had gone pale, her eyes wide, lips trembling like she might say something but couldn't find the words. I looked at her family, my voice barely steady. I'm sorry to do this, but you all deserve the truth. I started showing the messages, screenshots of Amy and Matt, their late-night texts, the meetups she claimed were work emergencies. Every word, every photo, undeniable. I read a few aloud, my voice shaking but clear. Her sister gasped, her dad's face turned red, her mom covered her mouth in shock. Amy tried to interrupt. Those are out of context. He's twisting everything. But I just kept going, laying out the evidence. Jess's note about Amy's lies. My detailed timeline of her deception. For a moment, no one spoke. Amy looked at me with hatred and desperation, her mask crumbling in front of everyone. I felt both relief and crushing sadness. Would her family see the truth now? Or would they still side with her? And then, the accusations and raw emotions exploded around the table. The room erupted. Her mom's voice broke first, barely more than a whisper. Amy, is this true? Her dad slammed his fist on the table, demanding answers. Amy burst into tears, insisting I'd twisted everything, but the evidence was too clear. Her sister started crying, while her brother just stared at her in disbelief. I could feel every eye on me, some filled with sympathy, others with confusion or anger. Amy tried to shift the blame again, saying I was controlling, that I'd pushed her away, that I'd violated her privacy. But her parents weren't having it anymore. Her mom asked, "Why didn't you just talk to us? Why all the lies?" The betrayal in her family's voices cut deeper than I expected. I sat in the chaos, adrenaline still pumping, not sure whether I'd won anything or just blown up two families at once. Amy stormed out, her dad following after her, her mom quietly sobbing at the table. No one really knew what to say to me or to each other. Had I done the right thing, or had I just lit a match to everyone's lives? In the echoing silence that followed, I was left to face the true cost of exposing everything. The days that followed were a blur. Amy didn't come home that night, or the next. I later found out she was staying with a friend, spinning a new version of the story, saying I ambushed her in front of her family. But the damage was done. Her parents stopped returning her calls. Her sister reached out to me privately, saying she was so sorry, and that she never imagined Amy was capable of something like that. Amy tried to go nuclear, posting vague things on social media about betrayal and privacy violations, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need revenge. The truth had already done the work. Some of our mutual friends reached out to ask what happened. I simply said, "Ask Amy." The silence that followed was louder than any argument we ever had. She eventually messaged me, accusing me of humiliating her, of turning her family against her. But even in her anger, she never once denied the affair again. She knew. We both did. I filed for separation 2 weeks later. But the hardest part wasn't the divorce. It was rebuilding trust in myself, in my own judgment. How do you move forward after someone you love tried to destroy your reality? The house felt like a tomb after Amy left, quiet, cold, heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. For weeks, I barely touched anything. Her mug still sat on the kitchen shelf. Her shampoo lingered in the shower. I'd find myself reaching to text her about something random before remembering. She's not my person anymore. But slowly, something shifted. The silence stopped feeling like grief and started feeling like peace. I took down the framed photos. I cleaned out the closet. I went for long walks just to feel the air on my face again. I even started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I never wanted to doubt my reality that way again. Friends I hadn't heard from in years began checking in. My sister flew in for a weekend. For the first time in forever, I felt seen. Not as a husband or a victim, but just me. I'm not going to say I'm grateful for what happened. It still hurts. Betrayal doesn't just vanish. But I am proud I stood up for myself when it mattered. That I exposed the truth, even when it would have been easier to stay silent. And now, with the dust finally settling, I can ask myself the most important question of all. Looking back, there were so many moments where I could have just let it go. Pretended not to see that message. Believed her lies. Swallowed the gaslighting and carried on like everything was fine. But if I had, I would have lost myself. That's the real cost of betrayal. It's not just about losing someone you loved. It's about losing your grip on reality, your ability to trust your own instincts. Exposing the truth didn't fix everything. It didn't make the pain go away, but it gave me clarity. And in that clarity, I found strength I didn't know I had. If you've ever been in a situation like mine, where love turns into manipulation, where someone tries to rewrite the truth, please hear me. You're not crazy. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But that doesn't mean you have to carry their shame. You deserve peace. You deserve truth. So here I am, months later, still healing, still learning, still rebuilding. But finally, I feel free. And now I ask you, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have exposed it all, or walked away quietly?